Hey everybody, Dan here with Pain Free You. Today I wanted to talk about a topic that's been requested quite a lot. Dan, can you talk about post-exertional malaise? Right? And so I've been requested that a lot, so today's the day. We're going to touch on that. And I'm hopefully going to connect some dots between that and the mind-body stuff that I talk about daily. So, I'm going to relax. It's a beautiful day. Sun is finally shining. Had a lot of overcast days and rain. Feels good to see the sun. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is read the definition of post-exertional malaise, according to our good friend Dr. Google. The key feature of PEM, post-exertional malaise, is that malaise, extreme fatigue, and flu-like symptoms, and other symptoms experienced are not in proportion to the amount of activity that has been done. So what they're saying is the symptoms we get, whether it be the fatigue, any type of sick feeling, or any other type of symptoms, are not in proportion to the amount of activity that has just been done. So, to me, that points to perceived danger as the cause. Perceived danger symptoms. The malaise, these set of symptoms, they are all a perceived danger response, right? To me, that makes perfect sense. Now, there are plenty of people that will be coming from the medical world, the chronic fatigue world, the don't do too much or you're going to crash world, if you will. And it's very, very, very common for that belief that if I do too much, I'm going to get this thing called post-exertional malaise. And it's nothing more than a definition of an experience. It's not a true illness or disease. It is just a definition or an explanation of an experience, right? Because again, when you think about post-exertional malaise, the symptoms do not correlate to the amount of activity that was just done. So to me, perceived danger is a perfect match for this term that's being used quite often. So let's say somebody with back pain goes out and takes a walk. The amount of pain that can sometimes crop up really high degree is not in relation to anything physical that happened, right? Fatigue, often deal with a lot of folks with fatigue. They can do 15 minutes worth of movement and man, they feel like they need to lay down for hours, right? It's not in proportion to the amount of activity. My belief on the fatigue side of it is that when the brain is perceiving danger, it says, life is too intense, scary, dangerous, if you will. Go take a nap because that's where you're safe and the energy resources in the body can come down quickly. Now on the same hand, I've seen plenty of people dealing with fatigue, and when they get engaged in life, family, grandkids, having to do some responsibilities that there's no way around, doing something fun or engaging like hanging out with some friends, family, whatever that may be, surprisingly, they often will get the appropriate level of energy to engage in that activity. And then, afterwards, they get this post-exertional malaise. Does that mean we've completely used up our energy stores? Or does that mean that the brain's perceiving danger and perceiving that there's only so much energy to go around? Now, that is true to a degree. That's why, pretty much all beings, humans, mammals, sleep because we need to rest and recover. So I'm not saying that there's no limit to the amount of energy that we have at our disposal, but what I'm suggesting is in the case of PEM, post-exertional malaise, it's hitting at such a high level, directly out of proportion to the amount of activity which we've done. So what do we do about it? Right? I think PEM is a perceived danger response. That being said, as you hear me talk about often, the response to perceived danger is safety. So we've got to start to believe differently and stop identifying with this illness, if you will, that many people identify with. They say, this is my problem. But when you look at the Google definition, it doesn't correlate. There's just symptoms that they're not in proportion to the amount of activity. And they're not really saying this is visible on blood tests, MRIs, or medical testing. It's a descriptive label based on somebody's experience. And enough people have had this experience that they've given it a name. And then the name kind of takes hold in these communities about chronic pain or mind, body, or TMS. And, I don't particularly like labels. So if you're going to utilize that label, I'm going to really encourage you to call it that. The label that my experience is given is this, but it's not really a disease. It's a perceived danger response. And what do we do about it? We call it out for what it is. I'm not really sick. I'm not broken. Not out of energy. I'm exhausted because my brain's perceiving danger. And in that particular case, the answer is go take a nap. You're safe in bed. You're safe on the couch. Don't overdo it. And then we get the conscious brain and the thinking involved. Now look, I'm not saying you caused it with your conscious thinking. These things just happened. The subconscious brain is running the show for symptoms, all of them. So I'm not debating that this did not happen to you and did not happen to you repetitively, and that you did not find an explanation in this definition, post-exertional malaise. Absolutely. None of this is your fault. I oftentimes have people get a little bit defensive, but Dan, I wasn't scared of activity when this happened. I wasn't creating the danger. It just happened. Right. And super clear, this is not your fault. I'm not blaming you when I say it's perceived danger, pain, or symptoms. What I'm suggesting is that your brain perceived danger at some level. The symptom it chose was this fatigue, flu-like symptoms, or other symptoms. And in some cases, we have delayed reaction pains after exertion. Somebody will take a long walk today. They felt reasonably okay on the walk, but the next day, whammo, post-exertional pain, right? This can happen, but I believe sincerely that this is a response by the brain perceiving danger, looking at that activity yesterday or 20 minutes ago and saying, whoa, too much, right? And from that perception of too much, the brain creates symptoms. And then if we respond to the symptoms with the story that goes, oh no, I did too much, I have post-exertional malaise and I pushed it too far, we're confirming the brain's perception that we just did something dangerous. But what if we didn't? What if we just have an overprotective brain that's turning on symptoms to protect us? Now let me be also very clear. This does not mean I'm telling you to go out and run a marathon. This does not mean I am telling you to dramatically increase your activity, because if you're doing that fearfully, your brain's going to likely throw at you this delayed reaction set of symptoms, whatever they may be. So we do want to take some caution and go easy and gradually, but we want to do it from a place of clarity and certainty and commitment that I'm not sick and I know what this is. I'm not terribly afraid of it. I may not like the fact that I do the activities and I get this response that's being labeled post-exertional malaise or post-exertional pain or post-exertional something. I know what it is, and I know that it can happen, but I don't have to be overly concerned with it, because I also know that it means I'm not truly sick. I just have a brain that's overprotective and sounding the alarm anytime it perceives that I have done too much. So, if you have identified with this post-exertional malaise, PEM, put it in the same bucket or category as perceived danger, pain, or symptoms. Because in my opinion, I could be wrong. Look, I'm not, a world-renowned scientist who's studied this at the molecular level. I could be wrong, but I do get an opportunity to interact with thousands of people a year. Many in my coaching program where I speak to them. Thousands through the comments on Facebook and YouTube. At least hundreds through private messaging and emails. And I learn a lot from you folks. And I learn a lot from the people applying safety to their wide variety of symptoms, including this PEM, post-exertional malaise. And I learn a lot from the fact that people, when they consistently apply the safety messages and teach their brain that I'm really not sick, I'm actually okay, the response that's being labeled PEM can settle down and not be quite as dramatic. And if you stay on that path and consistently remind yourself, these symptoms, I believe, can go away completely. Once you have successfully taught your brain that you're actually okay, you're not sick, you're not broken. We do that by providing consistent, credible messages of safety that eventually outweigh the brain's falsely perceived dangers. So that's my take on the PEM stuff. I think it's really important because there are so many people that identify with this. And the doctors will use those labels. You've got post-exertional malaise. That's why you're so tired after you do that activity or this activity. That's what's going on. You've got post-exertional malaise. Then you look it up and you're like, wow, that sounds pretty like a big deal. Then you end up in these communities where people are talking about their post-exertional malaise and cautioning you, don't do too much, don't do too much, don't do too much. And before you know it, you've got a lot of confirmation externally and internally with your own experience that says, be careful, be very careful, because there's a hard, fast limit. But you don't know where it is, but there's a limit. If you push it, you're going to get this experience, which has been labeled post-exertional malaise. The solution is recognizing that you're not sick, you didn't do too much, you have a brain with an alarm system that is hypersensitive, and it's doing its darndest to keep you as safe as possible. And if it believes that you're doing too much, it will potentially turn off the energy or turn up other symptoms in an effort to keep you safe by saying, shh, life's intense, go take a nap, go rest. I believe that's all that's going on. And I also believe that the concepts I teach all the time for pain or many other symptoms, and even fatigue and anxiety and everything else, safety is the solution for all of that stuff, folks. We don't need 42 different approaches for 42 different things. Because in the end, the root cause is the brain perceiving danger, and any number of countless possible symptoms are the response by the brain. And it is our ability to teach the brain, you're overreacting, let's turn down the sensitivity to this alarm system and teach the brain we're actually safe. I see it all the time. It's very predictable that many people are getting better when they are able to truly grasp the concept that I'm not really broken, I'm not really sick. And so if you can, distance yourself from these labels, not just PEM, but many others in this space. Because oftentimes the labels are nothing more than a name to describe an experience. And it's not necessarily a real illness because it's not in a blood test, it's not on an MRI, it's not medically confirmable. Because I would venture to say that many people who have post-exertional malaise, if they went to the doctor and said, hey doc, I'm looking for an overall checkup, but let's do a really in-depth study, make sure I'm okay, nothing to be concerned with. They'd run a whole gamut of tests, and most likely they're going to come back and say, we don't see anything, you're good, right? It's not visible. That's because it's not a medical issue. It is not a body sickness issue. I believe it is purely the brain perceiving danger and turning on that false alarm system. Does this make sense? Comment below. And look, I'm open to being wrong. So if there are some data out there that explains this differently, that makes more sense, point me towards it. Send me a link, right? I'd love to learn more. But this is my take based on my year's experience with this mind-body work. Originally Sarno, and then expanded into the concept I've introduced, perceived danger, pain, or symptoms. And both are a perceived danger response. I believe what they're calling a post-exertional malaise is just that. It's a response to perceived danger. So comment below. Let me know if this has helped you. If you think I'm on target, missing the mark, if you think somebody else could benefit by this, please share it with them. If you're not yet a subscriber on YouTube, hit that red subscribe button. Give it a thumbs up if you like this. That helps the algorithm put this out there a little bit more. And if you'd like some direct access to me, I'm on Zoom 4 times a week for up to 3 hours a session. So that's 12 hours a week, where it's kind of like open office hours, where you can pop in, raise your hand, and get your questions answered and get some direct coaching. If you'd like that, check out the group, painfreeyougroup.com. Come join us. It's a great group of people. People are getting better. People are gaining benefit all the time. And you don't have to do this alone. You can do it within a community that understands you and gets it. So I'm going to wrap this up. It's been going on a little long. So I appreciate you all. As always, I love you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.